Warning. Warning. Warning.
People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Hey, hello everybody. I'm Largo. This is still the Lair most of the time. Welcome back. It's been a hot minute since I've talked to a lot of you guys. We've had all kinds of fun stuff going on around here. And let's just take a moment to see who has dropped by. There's Bill Wifta, Weird Fantastic Toy Adventures. Howdy, howdy. The Epic Badger. Good to see you. Pay no attention to the poltergeist behind me. We're just having some electrical shenanigans as usual. Bjorn, good to see you, buddy. How is everybody doing? That's the question for the evening. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. Beta Ray Bob, howdy, howdy. Johnny Sorensen, back in the saddle again. Yee-haw, indeed. Ted, he's here, kind of. He's going to be late, but he'll be around. All right, that's cool. So it's all good. Shaytan's Hammer, good to see you. And our favorite buddy, who is my Hammer horror aficionado, Mr. Goji-tron, good to see you. Been enjoying going through those old flicks. So tonight is a little different. We are going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, and maybe yours, men's mental health. Kind of an odd thing to talk about. Speaking of odd, here's Odd Frog Entertainment. Good to see you guys. You know, I've been going through a lot of interesting stuff recently, and so I thought for coming back to the show, I would put something together that may be of help to our community. If nothing else, just some food for thought. So with that in mind, let's check out something a little bit different.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work, cause my boss is a jerk, and I'm not even that paid. I need a change in my life, cause I don't feel alive, and there's nothing that makes me happy. Hold my beer for a minute, I'm about to quit my job, cash in for a ticket. I'm going on a trip and I don't plan to visit. I'm gonna stay there till I feel like I'm winning, and this is just the beginning. I need a big change, help me feel like living. I need a big swing, home runs I'm hitting, and I'll never look back, moving on till I get it all. And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be? And do you believe you can do anything? But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be? Let's go! Hey! Yeah, this is my life, my strife, my right to fight, to die, And this is my game to play, to claim a brand new name, And I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm a bit nervous that I might screw everything up that I've ever done. But what's the point of living if you ain't having fun? I get guess I'll try this, try that, might miss, gotta find what I'm good at. I guess I look here, look there, over where am I scared, where am I at? I gotta make it in this life, whatever makes me happy, know I'm doing things right. Sipping in the summer on a goose and Sprite, or find a nightclub for the end of the night, oh. And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it, how you gonna move for it, what you gonna be? And do you believe we can do anything? But what you gonna do for it, how you gonna move for it, what you gonna be?
So, don't call it a comeback. Yes, I love LL Cool J. Not really a comeback for me because I've still been going through and processing and dealing with things. It's come back to the lounge, but the lounge has still been here. So, you know, that's kind of the thought there. Where do we go from here? Let's talk about just what's been going on in Largoville. If I can get the slides to cooperate with me. There we go. As most of you know, before I took my hiatus, I was talking about some of the electrical problems here, and that has been an ongoing problem, including just a dash of civil unrest. Things got weird. The electric company here has very much aggravated the local populace with their lack of service or lack of listening to people's complaints, but they're happy to send you a bill. And so a lot of people got mad and stormed their billing office and burned it to the ground. That was a fun day a while back. Talk about anxiety. That will definitely raise your anxiety levels when you're seeing, cop cars in flames. There are some cities in America that have experienced that in recent years. We'll kind of touch on that a little bit. On top of that, I kind of hit a financial downturn. I have a certain lifestyle as an expat through investments and things I set up in the States before I came to Guatemala. World events and just stuff have caught up with that. I've had to cancel a lot of pre-orders. I've had to cut my budget way, way back. And that does affect some of the things I was planning to do for the show. I'm just not going to be picking those up, and adds to the stress. And then to put a cherry on top, my father-in-law died recently, and nice guy. It wasn't a surprise. Heart attack. He's, was in his mid-70s, smoked like a chimney, drank like a fish. That is hard living. He worked hard. He played hard. But dealing with all of the, as I call it, in-laws and outlaws, just an influx of people that, having to deal with all the funeral arrangements, everything that goes with a death in the family, and all of the, not just the grief and grieving process, but the intricacies of filing paperwork when somebody passes and, putting their affairs in order. And of course, he didn't leave a will, and he's got 7 kids. So you can imagine some of the squabbles that have already started popping up. And I'm over it. Stress to the max. So basically those 3, that hat trick, that trifecta, really delayed my return to Largo's Lair because of just ongoing things that I deal with, and I'm going to talk about tonight. This is what got me, and this is what got me to do this show. I have a morning ritual, as most of you do. I put the Java pot on, get myself a cup of Joe, and I start flipping through Instagram, looking at reels, or I'll hit the shorts, see if there's anything interesting for the day. And this popped up. And it was just one of those random motivational bits. And it said, what's my toxic trait? This is, I don't ask for help. I disappear, and I come back when I'm feeling better. And I was like, you son of a, yeah, that's me. That is totally me. I own that. that's my go-to coping mechanism when things get heated and my depression is rough. I don't want to be a burden to my buddies. I don't want to be Debbie Downer. So I'll, exit stage right. And once I get to a place where I'm coping or maintaining, then I'll come back. And it's not always the most healthy coping mechanism, but it's one I identify with. So I thought it was worth putting out there. So before we go on, let's jump back in the chat here real quick, see what's going on here. I agree with Bjorn. This is something that's rarely talked about. And when it is, we kind of give it lip service. May was Mental Health Month in general. June was Men's Mental Health Month. But there wasn't much about it in a lot of the media we subscribe to because it got overshadowed by other things. But I definitely agree with that. Grindhead Jim, thank you for being here. Love your support, buddy. Appreciate you. This is something a lot of us deal with. And Johnny, I appreciate you talking about that. I got 24-hour anxiety my whole life rather than temporary version. Yay, neurodiversity. It differs in degree in any hour of the day, but I have tools to manage it best I can. And yeah, there are coping mechanisms and tools. We'll talk about a little bit of that tonight. The Epic Badger chiming in. I know about how depression and anxiety affects stomach acid and indigestion. Absolutely. The buildup behind the breastplate can feel like a heart attack. Absolutely. And that's a good warning sign. When you got a lot of heartburn, headaches, indigestion, neck aches for no reason, could be stress, could be something that you need to check out. Breastbone. Yeah. I got you. And Johnny definitely has seen some of that in action. So let's see. And Gojitron, thanks. Glad to be back. And we'll talk about how being part of this community is a great help and a coping mechanism for a lot of us. So that's kind of where we are. So Tyler's here. Howdy. Ted Millich, good to see you, sir. So for me, I realize this is something a lot of guys are aware of. We don't talk about our feelers, whether it's because of the way we were raised or just part of our culture. Men's mental health is not something that we put a lot of attention on, but statistically, men are usually more depressed than they admit. Our go-to is, I'm fine, it's cool, I'm okay. That's how we approach things. And that's usually code for, I'm getting by on the skin of my teeth, but I haven't wrecked myself lately. And it's tough for a lot of guys. My time in the service, I was not a combat veteran. I served in positions where I was more of administrative. I took care of logs and records for aircraft, things like that. So I didn't experience combat. I didn't deal with PTSD, but I knew a lot of brothers who did and do. And it's a challenge. And most men are embarrassed to discuss it because it doesn't seem manly. It seems that it's seen as weakness. Or in cases, it can be punitive. If you open up to somebody who isn't sensitive or willing to be non-judgmental, I have an ex-wife that comes to mind. They'll use that as a club over your head sometimes. It's like, at least that's the impression, and it's not a good feeling. For me personally, I deal with something called dysthymia. It's a fancy Greek term for a low-grade depression that, according to the American Psychiatric Association, depressed mood that lasts for at least 2 years. I was diagnosed back in the mid-90s, and I still deal with this today. So it is definitely long-term. It's been explained as having a cloud over your head all the time. Just that feeling of dread sometimes that manifests. but it's also known as persistent depressive disorder or high functioning depression. In other words, you can cope. You can deal with it. You're not someone who is prone to self-deletion or other extremes, but you do have moods that can be crippling at times. And these are some of the symptoms. If any of these ring a bell with you guys, you're not alone. This is something that a lot of us deal with and don't know it, or aren't self-aware enough to really address it. So poor appetite or overeating. I go through both. I'll go through days where I don't eat anything, and then sometimes I'll be doing the midnight shuffle down to the fridge because I can't sleep, and I'm hitting the ice cream or whatever, which ties into the next one, insomnia or excessive sleep. I'll go weeks of dealing with insomnia, and then I'll crash hard. Low energy or fatigue, that's a constant fight. Low self-esteem, yeah, that comes with it. Because you don't have any energy. You don't feel good. You don't feel like you're getting as much done as you need to. Poor concentration or indecisiveness, absolutely. Especially when it comes to putting together content, trying to make choices, putting a schedule together. You kind of have a fog that you're fighting through to do things and have clarity. Hopelessness isn't really my bag. It does hit some people a lot harder, especially because this is ongoing long term. I like being above ground. I don't have any dark thoughts that tend towards hopelessness. There's always hope. There's always that thought of it is shit today, but tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is going to be better because it can't get any worse. So that's kind of where I'm at with things. But let's get some other thoughts on this. I asked a couple of our buddies to join us tonight, and I am going to introduce them right now as soon as I find the right button here to do their intro. So where is it? There. So welcome to my buddies, Will, and to Ed, also known as Akxion Figures.
Hey, Jim, I just got to say it's so great to have you back. I've been hanging out in this Lair all by myself, this freaking rooster, and the things he does when you're not around, man, are just...
Yeah, he has a dark side. I should have warned you about that.
The place isn't the same without me.
Well, thank you. Ed, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. I got to tell you, your production value hasn't dropped any, Jim, so you didn't run out of practice. You might not remember where the buttons are, but your production value is still up there. So
that's it. Getting back in the saddle, it's a little rusty, but I enjoy putting stuff together, and it's a lot of fun. I like what you and your son have been doing. That's a lot of fun with your Tales from the Crick.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a crick and a creek for those of us who didn't grow up?
Nothing. It's just the way up in New York we say it. That's all.
Fair enough.
Ted, I think it was Ted from Hella Dope started that because I was saying something one day on some stream and I said crick, and he's like, crick? What the hell is a crick? I'm like, it's a creek. Just that's how we say it up here.
I have heard that before, so yeah.
Indeed. Well, boy, the chat is a jumping. Let's jump over there and see who else has joined us. Payne's Toy Samples. As a matter of fact, I have a link to them in the description below. So in the description of the video, you'll see a link to the Toy Therapy, however he says it, which I think is a great show. And it really highlights how toy collecting and the community in and of itself can definitely be a coping mechanism. And definitely can boost your spirits. And we appreciate what you do over there, Aaron. Yep, doing therapy without me. No, we knew you'd be hanging out. Let's see. Symptoms are hitting. Yeah, there's a lot of guys. I think we're going to talk about some things tonight that you can certainly identify, and we're going to give you a couple of hints on what we do to cope, to deal, to handle, and improve. So, it's not all doom and gloom. We're going to talk about some upsides as well. Epic Badger says the United States is slowly but surely turning the corner on how it treats men's depression. I work with Middle Eastern college students whose countries and families are not supportive. That's true. A lot of different cultures are very much against addressing this. And I think we live in more enlightened times in the States, in some parts, although some days I have to shake my head. This is a common malady. Yeah, I need more beer. Gojitron suffers from excess sarcasm, and that is a common problem amongst most of us males. And it's hard to text sarcasm. I'm really trying to work on how to improve my sarcasm game when I'm on the text, because when you're not face to face with somebody, they don't really get how dripping your sarcasm can be, and you want them to really feel it. Deadpan humor is almost a lost art. Pericles, good to see you.
Sarcasm's all in the delivery. You got to have the right facial expression, and it's
an art. It really is. And Grindhead deals with chronic anxiety, bouts of depression, PTSD. Former Marine. I'm sure he's had some things that have really tripped his trigger on occasion, including imposter syndrome. We'll address that as well. And these are things a lot of our friends deal with in quiet solitude. And, World Made of Cardboard, good to see you. And, let me see if I can keep up here. Let's see. Well, I lost my place in the... Yeah, culture can be helpful or hurtful. Yeah, the culture you come from, your background, your dealings with family and identity can definitely cause some challenges. I'll say that. Our buddy Adam, G.I. Joe Lost Chronicles.
What's up, Adam?
Howdy. Good to see you. And I agree with Goji. Low self-esteem is certainly not helped by this culture we've created that rates us by by likes. Social media is a double-edged sword. Absolutely. I think we've definitely seen an upturn in mental health issues across the board because of social media in a lot of cases. It's not the way people are meant to interact, so it is a thing.
On top of that, I think part of the other thing with this is that so many people are so worried about trying to keep up with everybody else. And then you have the other group of people that if you don't collect the right thing or you collect something, you can't be part of the group. And it's like, we should all just, if you collect Funkos or whatever it is, man, that's cool. Just support it, right? Doesn't matter if you're cool.
Friends don't let friends buy Funko, though. I mean, I draw a line somewhere. Those big-headed, creepy things, no. But
I don't have any in my house. I'm just saying, if somebody wanted to collect them, I'd support it.
Right. Not me. I'm just talking for a friend. Right. I don't do the Funko. Pericles, talking about being diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and unspecified depressive disorder. Yeah, there's some different, and this is kind of how do you put it? It can be a quagmire when you're dealing with symptoms and you don't know where to go to get clear answers. And there's a lot of psychobabble. They put these huge labels, sometimes in Greek or Latin, to what you're dealing with. It's like, dude, I'm just trying to figure out how to get through my day. I don't need an alphabet salad of these diagnoses. And you pull one strand and you're just like, wow, there's all this stuff, and everybody's got, here's some natural remedies, and try some shrooms, or try, touching grass or whatever. And it's like, some of this is all good, and some of it can be positive, and some of it can just be overwhelming.
Well, that's, that's another thing. It's like I was doing therapy for many, many, many years, too many years to even discuss. But, I had several, well, probably 10 or 15 different doctors throughout the years. I started therapy when I was in high school, and everybody diagnoses you with something different, even though you're like basically telling them the same symptoms. Maybe some are, more prominent at that point in time than others, but you're still telling them the same symptoms. But this guy's diagnosing you with bipolar. This guy's, excessive depression. This guy's, whatever. It's like, okay, which one do I have? Someone just tell me so I can figure out what I need to do.
Yeah. It's like, I don't need a label. I need a solution, you know? So, and I agree with Adam. A crick is what you get in your neck. A creek is what you got back behind the house. So, it's how you grow up. World Made of Cardboard, dealing with a diagnosis of depression in 2006. Got some successful treatment and helped him to get out of some of the major aspects of it. But yeah, it's mental health. It's just like physical health. It has to be maintained. You got to make healthy choices. And we'll talk about some of that in just a minute. We go through our slides here. So, Ben Stutley, good to see you. Howdy, howdy. Good to see you. The Skull Reviews, welcome. Good to see you. And hey, Ted's back. Hey, Ted. Yes. Yeah, show off the mug. I don't have mug jealousy at all. No envy here.
I'm part of the Mug Club. I'm better than all of you.
That's right. Funko Pop equal Charlie Brown head dead shark eye statues. They are creepy. I'm just saying. Oof. Yeah. Yeah. Though you enjoy it, things that you enjoy, you lose your enjoyment in sometimes. That's just one of the things that depression can rob you of, and it's unfortunate. So I'm gonna jump out of the chat because we could be here all night just going through this. This is what I wanted. I wanted guys to talk about things and talk about their experiences. So before we get totally inundated, let's jump in and see what we got going here. Anxiety. Bottom line, stressful life events equals anxiety. If you are dealing with being anxious, it's because of stress, whether it's home life, work and school, personal relationships, financial stability, or world events, which are often beyond your control. These things can lead to panic attack. They can lead to other forms of anxiety, and we'll talk about some ways to cope with that. Anxiety and depression are not the same, but they are definitely interrelated. So that's why I thought we should include that. When you talk about depression, there's really two sides to look at. We've talked about some of the warning signs like, heartburn and headache and muscle pain. You also have that lethargy, that exhaustion, that just, it doesn't matter how much sleep you get, you just never feel energized. Changes in appetite. Sometimes food just loses its flavor. The wine no longer has its savor. Changes in sleep patterns, sometimes a loss in sex drive, alcohol or drug use might increase, or, like I chain smoke. That's part of one of the things I do that's not a healthy coping mechanism. And emotionally, sad or nervous. We all know about that one. Losing interest or pleasure in activities. World Made of Cardboard's just talking about. This is one that a lot of guys don't realize. When you are irritable, angry, or violent, sometimes it's because of a low-grade depression. For men especially, sometimes women, but mostly men, we manifest our depression in irritability. Things aren't right in the world, and something is off, and little things that don't normally press your buttons suddenly do. You get annoyed at things that you would normally just let slide. It's part of that whole cycle that you have to be aware of. Becoming withdrawn or isolated, that's definitely one for me. I like to retreat. I am definitely an introvert by nature. I like people at a distance, but more than 3 people in a room, I'm looking for an exit. I don't like crowds. It's just too much energy, and it drains me to be around huge amounts of people, which is one of the reasons I like this format, because I'm sitting in my room hanging out. I don't have, a mass of people. Doesn't matter how many people are on the other side of the camera. So this works, for social interaction. But dinner parties are not my forte. Feeling worthless, guilty, hopeless. Those are definitely symptoms that people deal with. Taking unnecessary risks. Road rage is a good example. People get really irritated behind the wheel. They do some silly things they shouldn't. And this could be a manifestation of a deeper issue that's not being addressed. And another one, especially with men, is becoming obsessive, whether it's in a particular task or something, because you lose the perception of control of things in your life. You focus on something, you become very obsessive about it because it gives you a handle to hang on to while you're going through the roller coasters. So, thoughts, guys?
Yeah, like I have a brother-in-law who's, he was an alcoholic for many years too, on top of everything. But like, instead of dealing with all these things, his way to deal with it was to drink, and then he'd go, neck deep into anything he went into. He got into RC cars. He went, $5,000 at a shot, did it for 3-4 months. And then it was, I'm going to go do bow and arrows. He started making his own bows and his own arrows. And then, bought all the equipment for that. And then, I'm going to go start a band. And then it was every 3-4 months. It was just a cycle, but he'd go, tons of money just dumped. And then, he'd be done with that cycle and he'd just give it all away or throw it away or whatever. Right. It was like sticking in the back of his garage, whatever. It's like, but that's what he did. That's how he dealt with it. Till he finally got got out of drinking and realized that there was more to life than just living that way.
Partying on, yeah. And some people in the toy collecting community may feel that way as well. You get obsessed with whether it's completing a collection or searching for that vintage Grail piece or something. Yeah. Not necessarily in an unhealthy way, and that we'll talk about that too in general. Where there's a lot of positive aspects to this community that can help with men's mental health in general. I think
the toy collecting community or other kind of collecting, some people collect vinyl, whatever it is, right? There's a fine line because I was big into collecting Star Wars, the 3 3/4 inch Star Wars, and I had to have everything, if it was it was part of the vintage toys or if it was new stuff, I had to have it all, and then it got to the point where I was actually feeling worse, anxiety and depression and everything else because I couldn't find it or I couldn't get it or when was I going to be able to get it. And it was like that created so much stress for me that my wife at the time was just like, you're done. She's like, you're done, no more Star Wars. I'm like, okay. So then she actually helped me sell the pieces pieces off. She let me keep the ones that were mine from when I was a kid, the vintage pieces I kept, but they're all in storage now. I don't even I couldn't even tell you where they are, but but it literally.
Will, do you ever get obsessed with anything like that?
Oh, me? No, I don't relate to any of this situation. How are you guys?
We're swell. Just waiting for the swelling to go down. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to give you anxiety, Ted. It's yes. Cool. I know the mug is in the works. I'm just teasing.
Will was born on another level. He was just
no.
He just kind of
it's a bit overwhelming. I'll just tell you that all I could say is I appreciate so much those willing to discuss how they feel because it's impossible for me, and I admire that in all of you. And most of what I wanted to add to this conversation comes later, and that is the part that how much this community helps.
That's fair.
I think,
Mr.
you said, Jim,
Bill, talking about some stuff here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
Ahead.
Like you were saying in that one thing in the beginning, in the intro, it's like, I think so many men, especially our age, right, or also older guys. We grew up with a dad that was, you pull up your cowboy boots, you tighten your belt, whatever you got to do, you're going to keep walking, right? You get your ass knocked down.
Embrace the suck.
That's right. Yep.
Well, I think
Embrace the suck.
I did mention to Jim before the stream that, one of the things that was in my youth was bringing up feelings often made things a lot worse.
Yeah, but that's it, right? Then you get trained that way, and then you get married, and then it's looked at as a weakness already. And then, like you said, I mean, my ex-wife was pretty understanding, but you could still see those little digs once in a while where she would just, throw it out there. Oh, why don't you go see your therapist? And I know she didn't mean it, but it was just, one of those things, like it was a weapon, you know what I mean? And it got weaponized. So then you just get to the point where you're like, screw it, I'm not going to talk about it anymore,
It's true. And, like Bill says here, this is something I do myself. My therapy consists of me sitting alone in the dark, fighting with my feelings. Been there, done that. I try not to do that, but it is definitely my go-to move. My first instinct is to withdraw and just stew in it. And that's not healthy. So World made a cardboard saying the diagnosis is always difficult and it's still not exact science. That's true. They call it practicing psychology, practicing medicine, because they ain't got it right yet. But, there can be, I scoff at a lot of psychoanalysis, but it can be very helpful. And I don't mean to cast aspersions, but you got to figure out what works for you. And sometimes it's a combination. Sometimes it is a medication. Sometimes it's a therapy. Sometimes it's just homespun common sense, or horse sense, as my granddaddy used to put it, that, when you're in the weeds, you can't really see it. And sometimes you need a peer or a coach or a mentor or somebody to point out the obvious because you're not thinking straight. So
one of the big things I struggled with when I was going through lots of therapy and lots of different medications is I'd go on it for 6 months, and then I'd start feeling good. Then I just stop, right? And that was where where my downfall, right?
I'm cured.
Good. Yeah. Why do I need to keep going? I'm good, right? Quit the medicine, quit the therapy, and then you're good for a while. Then you can start feeling yourself starting to decline, and you're still too proud to admit that you failed again, right? Because you didn't want to fail, right? And then next thing you know, 2 years in, you're right in the shit again, right?
There's definitely a need for maintenance, just like, I'll come back to the physical thing. You got to maintain your physical health. You got to maintain your mental health. You got to work with that on a regular basis. And as Aaron points out here, there is no magic pill, and a good diagnostician can make all the difference between successful interventions and failed opportunities. And something that we've kind of pointed at before, but it's like, this is not a weakness, guys. It is a symptom of whatever's going on in your worldview, whether it be your family upbringing, crises in your daily life, shit hitting the fan, learning healthy coping mechanisms in life. When these downturns hit you, you're better able to face it, and you shouldn't have to face it alone. And there's support there for you. Sometimes you just have to remember to ask. And that's tough. It can definitely be tough. So let's see. Yeah. And this is another good one. I worked a graveyard shift, and, there's somebody here in the chat was talking about that. Goji was responding. Yeah. Rotating day-night shift at work can totally mess with your mental health.
Yeah.
Because your sleep cycle, your circadian rhythm gets all screwed up. And I loved working the night shift, but it played hell with the family dynamics. And I think that led to my first divorce, a lot of it, because you're not a cohesive family when you're on a completely different shift than your wife and kids. And that can definitely add to your stress, anxiety, and depression. Not to mention just your lack of feeling good about, it's like, we need sunlight. We're just, we're built that way.
Definitely staying on a regular schedule to a point is very beneficial just even to people that aren't mentally ill, right? There's a reason that, you go to bed at the same time, you get up at the same time, you feel a lot better, when you're.
Yeah. Pain 20 samples brings up another good point. Memory issues. When your short-term memory or even long-term, you feel discombobulated. It's hard to put things in a linear order in your mind. It's hard to remember or recall things. Anxiety, makes that worse. Definitely makes it difficult to focus. Yeah. So seeing a lot of great comments here in the chat. Hey, Melvor, good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you hanging out. And man, there's a lot going on here. Odd Frog, been a jogger since my early 20s, had a small business, very demanding. And the regular exercise is an absolute must for feeling normal. Absolutely.
So, there's a therapy that got created several years ago it got created a long time ago, but really started getting used several years ago. It's called EMDR, right? And it's all about the movement of your eyes. And the doctor, the psychiatrist that discovered it, figured out that when you're actually walking or jogging, your eyes are going back and forth. It's such a natural motion that you end up being more suggestible and everything else in your brain. Your subconscious is more open, and it actually, they use it now with like lasers or lights really that make your eyes go back and forth when you're in this therapy. It's one of the things that actually really helped me get past the point of, I won't say lying to my therapist, but always having that
lies of omission.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because you're still protective even when you're in there, right? Because you don't want to just lay it all out. You don't want to just throw the peanut butter jar on the floor and call it good, right? Because we're men, right? You just don't want to do it, right? These are the problems, but I'm not going to go all the way into the woods with it, right? But once you start doing EMDR, like you're doing this treatment and they're talking to you and asking questions and stuff, and you don't even know what's going on, right? You're just like you're walking through the woods. And from that point on, when I learned what it actually was, I just started walking and hiking. And man, I'll tell you, it's one of the best things I ever did for myself.
Hiking is absolutely amazing. The peace you feel, just the energy when you're just in the forest alone is absolutely like you just need to do it to recharge sometimes. Yep. I don't know about you, but sometimes I just need to go.
I go every day for at least 30 minutes to an hour every day, at least, unless it's pouring down rain like it was today. So,
yeah. And our buddy from our favorite Kiwi in Japan chiming in. Good to see you. Treasures for Trigger. Great discussion, guys. Growing up in tough guy rugby mad New Zealand, where men are told to just harden up and everything's swept under the carpet. Totally. I can totally see that. Great to see that society has evolved. Absolutely. Let's dive into some other stuff here.
Pains. Ooh, nature.
There's stuff out there. Creepy crawlies, man.
Mud. Bugs. Oh, God.
Good stuff. Yep. Well, let's talk about some coping mechanisms. We've touched on some of them here. I put a list together of what works for me. And maybe this will resonate with some of you guys. Maybe you guys will have some thoughts that I need to write down to try. First and foremost, get your groove on. When I'm feeling down, when I'm in that dark place, music helps. Music hath soothed the savage beast. That's why I love the Infinite Playlist, because I get to hear other people's music, what's in their playlist, what's their go-to when they want to get their groove on. Definitely don't underplay putting on the headphones and zoning for a half hour to recharge the batteries. Practicing mindfulness, it sounds like a little bit of word salad, but it really just means looking in the mirror. Check yourself. Know yourself well enough to know when something is off kilter.
And be honest with yourself.
Being honest with yourself. And this is not something you share with anybody else. It's just you looking at you saying, okay, what's going on here? And there's ways to do that. And absolutely getting physical. And this doesn't mean having to do a 45-minute workout. It could be 15 minutes. It could be walking your dog or walking your neighbor's dog or walking a neighbor if he's into it. I don't know. But movement of any. And as you pointed out with the eye thing, there's some neurological science there. Just sometimes getting away from your desk, your computer, looking at things at a distance, changing your focus can help with resetting where you are. Talking it out. If you have a good confidant, and you should, someone in your circle of friends is a good listener. And sometimes, and this is something as guys, we really need to clarify with people. As guys, in general, we want to fix things if it's broken. So everyone has that friend that you want to just talk to and blow off steam, and I just want to vent. And they're constantly trying to give me solutions. It's like, just shut up and listen, man. I'm not asking you to fix something. I'm just venting. I just need to get it out. I just need a listener. And, some friends have a capability for that. Some people can't stop trying to help. It's like, the help is listening. You guys run into that?
Well, I tell you, one of the things I do with my kids, right? I got 3 kids, like I said, and they're all, young adults now. And they'll come to me and be like, Dad, I got to talk to you about something. I'm like, okay, is this a fix it or a vent type of conversation? Which one do you want?
That's a great clarifier.
Right? Because then I know which way to go. Because sometimes they just want to vent. Because for a long time, my middle daughter, 20, we used to go together to work because she worked right in the, like two buildings down from where I work. So we just went in one car. And in the morning or in the afternoon, she started going off. And I, of course, being a guy, I'm like, well, you should just do this, this, and this, right? I don't want you to fix it, Dad. So then I started with her, okay, is this a fix it conversation or do you just want me to listen? And then, we started talking that way. And that's how I do it with all my kids. And it works great,
Yeah. And Payne's echoing that right there in the chat. Jim, Jim and I have had a lot of off-camera conversations, and I didn't specifically tell him to take everything I was telling him and make a slideshow out of it.
I didn't mean to single you out.
Oh, the secrets are out.
But ultimately, this is for the betterment of all of us, so I appreciate it. No, I definitely kid, and I know it's a serious subject, but I couldn't help it.
I think, one of the biggest things like in this list right here, though, is that men struggle with is the last one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not really just crying, but like just letting those emotions out, right? I had this one therapist who was my last therapist, and he was like, if you need to lay your head in your pillow and scream, then just do it, right? Get that out, because getting it out, whether it's crying or screaming or, go punch a punching bag at the gym, whatever you got to do to get that out. That's the best thing you can do, right? Because keeping it all in is not good at all.
The word that comes to mind is cathartic. Whether it is a primal scream or just sobbing or whatever it is, I don't cry easily. But if you need to break out your old VHS tape of Old Yeller to get the waterworks going, do that. For me, I'll share here. There's a particular episode of Doctor Who that is very emotional, and if I'm sucked up, I'll put that on if I want to get to a point where I can feel comfortable weeping. It is very cathartic. It doesn't feel manly, but fuck it. It helps. It makes me feel better going through that process. Figure out what it is that gets you to that point. Find a private place where you can do that and do it for your own mental health. It's definitely worth looking at.
Yep.
And writing, when we talk about writing down, I just want to point out, you're not writing your autobiography. You're not writing the next great novel. This is not Shakespearean. It is a data dump. I highly recommend you do it old school with paper and pen. Don't do it on a computer, because the physical act of writing things down, just stream of consciousness, everything's shit today, blah, 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 whatever comes to mind, just pour it out. It's like an emotional vomit, if you will. Yep. The practice is just to get it out of your head so that you can breathe. And
the other thing is, when you write it down,
nobody's going to read that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when you write it down, you also have the opportunity to look at it and go, well, why is this particular thing bothering me today? Right. It helps you identify what your actual, maybe not the root cause, but the root cause of that one thing is, right. I mean, absolutely. I was feeling kind of bad at the beginning of this month. And, I'm a pretty happy guy for the last couple of years since I basically did a lot of stuff to fix myself, did a lot of healing. But I was like, man, why do I just feel a little bit off? And then I remembered, right. It was like the 7th of July that my wife and I got separated, right? So it was just, those triggers, right?
Anniversaries,
triggers, anniversary dates, trigger dates, But once I started writing down what I'm feeling, then I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Then I was like, I was able to address it, move on, do a little self-talk, a little meditation. Now I was out the door, moving,
And that goes back to the mindfulness thing. It's part of that, being able to see yourself as you are, not how you project yourself, because everybody has masks they wear. You put on a certain face in the corporate setting. in other social settings, you are different personas, you know. And when you take off the Largo hat and you're just being real, you know, sometimes you see things in the mirror that you don't show other people. So I get that. And yeah, writing it down and is definitely a great way to do that. I want to touch on what Gojitron said here. This is a great way, again, tying in what we do with the toy collecting. When I hike, I usually take a small bag of toys with me to snap some photos as I connect with nature. Doubly therapeutic. That's a great idea.
Such a great idea.
Always. I always throw at least 2-3 figures in my backpack when I go out for a hike. Never know what's going to happen.
That's such a cool idea.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to taking some of the Big Joes and going out to some of the Guatemalan ruins that are here. Like we have.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, there's some great stuff here. I need to get around to it. You know, those are hard to find at the hardware store, and just do it. You know, it's easy to put off, but I know I'll feel better when I do it. Pains, yeah, radical acceptance. That's a tough thing to accept. Ironically, radical acceptance is what it has been. The most beneficial thing for me to stop trying to control things out of my control. Yeah.
Yep. That was one of the things for me too. Like a couple years back when I was going through a lot of therapies, just really trying. I mean, my wife and I got divorced, and family separated. I was, I did one of the worst things you could possibly do, and attempted suicide. And I could tell the whole story about that, but we don't have enough time. But from that point on, the next day after that was all done, I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore, right? So I'm going to fix it. And then I just started living by the fact of, like the only thing I can control in this world is my reaction to whatever the stimulus is, right? I can't control anything else. I can either get angry about it, stay angry. I can get, sad. I can get mad, whatever it is, right? But I can't change what happened. So.
And it's become cliche, but the serenity prayer, there's a reason it works. Accept the things you can do something about, and learn to let go of the things you cannot control.
Yep.
Really hard for a guy to own that. Speaking of owning it, these are some go-tos for being anxious or stressed out. I use these; they work. That's why I put them here. Again, some of you may have some other suggestions, or these may resonate. Take a time out. It's okay to walk away from a stressful situation, even if it's just to take a coffee break for a moment. Get in a quiet place, go to a bathroom, find a dark area, do some, something to get your head out of that moment. And these are not, just, long-term maintenance. This is more of when you're in that moment and it's really overwhelming. These are things you can do. Breathe. Remember to breathe. Taking deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Focus on your breathing. It helps change your mindset. It really does. Count to 10. We're told as kids to do that when we're angry. It also works when you're anxious or stressed. And one that some people may not be aware of is the 3-3-3 rule. This is just it's a cognitive thing. It's a way to snap you out of where you are at the moment. When you're in that anxious state, look around and identify 3 objects and focus on those for a moment. Identify 3 sounds, and then move 3 separate parts of your body just to disconnect from that stressful or anxious moment and reset. So,
you guys ever use any of these? Is it wrong that I just looked at Loki? My bottle of aspirin, rooster crowing, Largo's voice, and I took 10 deep breaths, and I feel a lot better. So thank you. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. That I just did all of those things while we were talking. It's not.
He's not just the president of Wilhelm's Toy and Hobby. He's also a client.
Yes.
One of the nice things about this list here, Jim, is like in therapy. I went speaking of cognitive stuff. I was through CBT therapy, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of that has to do with like coping mechanisms. They have all these like, stop, which means, stop, take a time out, all these acronyms and things that you're supposed to do for coping mechanisms, sure. Right? The problem with those is like in the heat of a moment, when you got high emotions running and all stuff, you don't think about those things, right? saying to myself, okay, I got to take a deep breath or take 10 seconds, count to 10 is an easy thing to remember. Remember what, stop means. I don't remember when I'm not in a highly, emotional state,
Right.
let alone when I am. And then on top of that, when you're done and the situation's, de-escalated and everything, then you're like, oh, I should have used this or I should have used that. Then you start judging yourself because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And then it's like, it just compounds your
we definitely beat ourselves up when we overcomplicate. Keep it simple. Find what works for you and practice it. And again, when you practice these things, when you're not in a crisis moment, it's easier for it to come to mind when you are in one.
I'll tell you what I do every day when I get up in the morning. It's one of the things I started doing about 2.5 years ago. And it helps when you're in a stressed out situation or you're starting to feel anger or anything. Come on. If you stop and force yourself to smile, the stupidest smile you could possibly imagine for 15 seconds, your mood cannot stay horrible. And I do it every morning as soon as I get out of bed. Starts my whole day off great.
Just moving the face muscles.
It's just the whole, your brain knows that you're smiling. So you can't be angry when you're smiling, whether you're forcing it or not.
All right,
That's why you got to hold it for 15 seconds. You can't be just a quick one, right? But you got to make sure it's a big, stupid ass smile, right? And don't worry about everybody else is going to think about it, right? People look at you, go, "Why are you smiling?" You just be like, "Hey,
I almost can't wait to use it in an awkward, stressful situation."
Yep. People either think you're really crazy and this guy's flipped and they'll leave you alone, or else, you at the end of it all, you'll feel better either way.
There is definitely some value in being seen as the guy who has the great big smile and everybody's afraid of, because it's like, why is he smiling? It's like, don't you wish you knew? You got to add the evil maniacal laugh, though. You got to work on it. Goji, I'm glad we can provide you with a way to calm down. Eduardo is here at your service and will crow anytime, day or night, whether you want him to or not, constantly.
I heard Jim was going to start making digital downloads of Eduardo's crowing. So selling those
I could do some, ASMR.
Yeah.
Just,
Largo's Lair, 10 hours of Eduardo.
Yes. Largo's Lair. Sit back, close your eyes.
If it helps.
Listen to the sweet sounds of Eduardo's crowing.
Definitely. And Johnny saying, good tactics. These are things that can definitely help. And, whatever works, guys. It's just a matter of figuring it out. Ringtones. That's an idea. Eduardo ringtones. We can work on that.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to say something here. When I was saying about owning it, doing those things, I legitimately really did. And I want to apologize to you guys because as we began talking about this subject and this discussion, for the last 20 minutes or maybe, I don't know, hour, it's been an hour now. So, but my heart's been racing. I feel like I just want to click off this thing and get out of here, because I'm telling you, I thought I was going to throw up, and just, I've told Jim this off camera, but it really, I feel a lot better now. I'm just so thank you, and I apologize, and
I apologize.
There's no nothing. You never apologize.
I'm sweating, and I'm like, and I know I joke around a lot, and I don't know why I do that. I'm sure there's a reason, but
we use humor to diffuse a stressful or anxious situation, and I didn't mean to put you in a spot where you felt uncomfortable.
When you said we were going to talk about this, I was really excited to talk about this. I thought this could be an opportunity to just work through some things, and then when we started going through the slides, and as you're reading the thing, I don't know. Like I said, I just got this really, my heart was pounding. I was sweating. I felt like I was going to pass out or throw up or do both at once. And I was going to even send you a private chat and just say hey man, I can't. And as you were doing that slide, I really literally started doing those things in my head and breathing deeply and just trying to get well, I feel better. So thank you. So let's proceed.
Glad that was of use.
Awesome.
So there, I said, I everything here is stuff I've either tried or I use in my personal coping. So I know they work.
Would you
when
be
they're a problem.
surprised to hear that I've never tried any of this? And
Really?
no,
I would be
I've
surprised.
never addressed anything and ever talked about anything. This is interesting.
Well, hopefully
first
this
time's
has
always
merit.
hard, Will. First time is always hard. We
Yeah.
got to face it.
Yeah. And again, momentum is key. Movement, keep moving. I found this is definitely, of all the different things that I've tried and have been suggested to me, getting to that point where you realize, don't wait for motivation. Don't wait till you feel like it, because you never will. Get up and move. I like to hike. I don't do it as much as I used to, and I can always come up with an excuse. But I have a treadmill. I can always get on the treadmill, rain or shine, and just move. It doesn't have to be the most strenuous thing, but just getting some movement is always helpful.
My ex-wife is a personal trainer, and I helped her get her certification, just helped her study and stuff like that. And it was wild because one of the things that, you just hear things, and it doesn't matter. It could be talking about toys. You could be talking about physical, fitness. You could be talking about cars, and something will be said, and you're just like, wait a minute, that makes a lot of sense, right? And the guy that was doing the instructional video was like, if you have a client that's struggling to get to the gym, or you're struggling to get to the gym, he said, just, instead of listening to the excuses that, oh, I'll go back tomorrow, because once you take that day off, it's harder and harder and harder. He goes, just drive to the gym. He said, when you get to the gym and you drive to the gym, you're going to be like, well, I'm already here, so I might as well go in. Then he said, go into the gym. He said, then once you're in the gym, you're going to be like, well, I'm already here, so I might as well work out. And he's like, it'll stop you from having all those excuses and listening to those excuses, because you're already made partial effort to go. So you might as well just go the rest of the way. And I was just like, damn, that's so applicable to so many things in your life, right? I mean, like, you get up in the morning and you're just feeling a little off. You're like, yeah, I don't really feel like, doing the dishes today. So you get up and you go out in the kitchen, and then you're looking at them. You're like, you just start doing them, right? It's like, it's so applicable to so many different things in your life.
Yeah, and that's something we'll touch on later on in the slides, but definitely breaking things down into smaller pieces. Figure out what you can cope with. If it's just getting out of bed, well, getting your feet on the ground, you've done something. Now, what's the next step? Go take a cold shower, get your head together, put some clothes on, make your bed, clean your room. Figure out whatever that base thing is that'll get you out of the funk, and that gives you the momentum to do the next thing. It just works, Momentum, once it's like what Newton said, I'll badly paraphrase it, but the idea of something that's in motion wants to stay in motion, something at rest wants to stay at rest. That, there's some truth to that in our mental and physical well-being as well. If you keep moving, you want to keep moving, and you just got to get that momentum going. But if you're waiting to be inspired, if you're waiting to feel like it, you're never going to feel like it. It's the opposite. The feeling like it comes from the doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's
totally. Like doing it when it sucks and you don't want to, and you get out of bed and it's like, the last thing I want to do is work up a sweat at 6 a.m, but that's what I need to do. So, that's the time when you embrace the suck. It's like, I don't feel like it, but embrace the suck. Do what you got to do, because you will get a reward. You will feel better for doing it.
I'll be right back, Jim.
Okay. I'll check in with the chat if I can eloquate. Ted saying, as a human who has to lead 60 people daily, I found this helpful. My days are nothing but stress and problem solving. As a manager, I as an ex-manager, Will is in a management position. That is an added stress to your day when it's not just your position that you're dealing with, but all the little Indians that you have to, put out fires for.
Yeah.
And
you
it's
have
like,
all
no
of your
matter
responsibility plus figuring out how to do everyone out, or teaching, or, just problem solving. Everyone
else's problem. It can be very stressful.
It can be rewarding, but also very stressful. Yeah.
Exactly. And we've touched on this before, being actively mindful. Know yourself well enough to sense when you're entering a dark place.
Yeah.
If you're in tune with yourself and you don't ignore danger signs, whether your body is telling you something, your stomach's always upset, you're always reaching for the antacid, you've got headaches from nowhere. Your brain and your body is trying to tell you something, and when you're well in tune with who you are, it's easier for you to see those things before they become crisis, because you're saying, okay, yeah, I know, and especially with dysthymia, because it is long term and I'm familiar with it. I know the triggers, I know the signs, and I know when I'm headed for a slump where I'm going to have to do extra work to stay on top of things. Doesn't always mean I'm successful with that, but at least I'm aware. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. At least even just acknowledging it,
Yeah.
sometimes is all you need to do. You know what I mean? Just know that you know what's going on. You're in control. You've got your hands on the wheel, and you're gonna get through this. It's some rough roads
Yeah.
ahead, but you're gonna hold tight and you're gonna just keep straight and get to the other side. So yeah, it totally makes sense. Oh, Jim froze. I think we lost Jim. Okay, well, hey guys. Um, maybe he'll be back in a second. Well, if not, I just want to say that what I was saying earlier about admiring and people that are able to and willing to openly talk about mental health issues is very inspiring, not only to the community but to me as well. Let me let Ed back in here. Hey Ed, I think we lost Largo for a
Yep.
second.
Sorry,
Oh,
guys.
he's back. He's
Lost
back.
the signal there for a moment. Give me just a second. I need to go check the router. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. We'll go through some comments until you get back.
Okay, please do. Or keep going through the slides. I'll just jump back in.
Okay, sure. Let me. So yeah, Phil saying that his long daily commute, which includes cycling, has saved him. Oh yeah, and you did a wonderful video on that, and yeah, I could see how that would be very therapeutic. Phil, thank you for the encouragement. I appreciate it. And Bill saying, thank you for this Largo. Like Will, this is all hitting home with me, and things. And these things are things that help, and they really do. Ben, same here, man. I feel better just dropping a couple of YouTube comments and chat and reading the comments. Definitely a worthwhile topic. All the best. All the best to you too, sir. So let's go ahead and and hey Ted, how are you? So letting it out in a healthy way, I think is where we left off there. So in the next slide, do not suffer fools. I love this one so much. Eliminate toxic people from your life. There was a time when I think we've all thought we could fix something or fix someone or, get through it or change it, but pay attention to how these people make you feel. You could offer compassion for people, but don't try to fix them. You just can't.
Setting healthy boundaries.
Yep. Avoid playing into their reality, because that is something that we've all been there, and talk to them directly about their behavior, not themselves, because that's always the deflection. You bring up something that someone's doing that's just really wrong, and and you're saying this behavior is what I'm talking about, and then they say, oh well, you don't like me because I'm this or that, or this relationship, insert whatever you want, and I've been very clear in the past. It's about a specific behavior, not you as a person. So
Absolutely. And this is something I've talked with one of our friends about recently. I won't say who in case they don't want to be singled out, but he texted me and says, hey man, I got this friend and he's got issues and I want to help him. And it's like, be careful. It's like Grandpappy used to say, it's always easier for someone to pull you down than for you to pull somebody up, especially if they've got unresolved issues and they're not trying to get help. They're just toxic, and that toxicity spreads to other people and can really pull you down. So yeah, and people who gaslight, we see a lot of that, especially in social media. People who will switch things around, and something that was their fault, they're blaming you for, or making you feel bad about it. It's like, I don't need that in my life. And I've just learned over time, this doesn't come naturally to me, but I've had to learn, say no, walk away. Definitely own it and say, look, man, you are toxic to me. And I don't owe you an explanation. I'm just telling you, I want you out of my life, and hold that line and say, you know what? This is not a friendship I need, And I've had some family members like that where it's just like, you know what? I'll see you at weddings and anniversary, funeral, whatever, but otherwise don't call me.
Yeah, you have to really set healthy boundaries with that, especially like for me, my mother is a big toxic person in my life, right? She's a very narcissistic, does a lot of gaslighting all over, right? So it's hard to just, avoid your mother forever, right? I mean, so like I had to work really hard to set boundaries that were okay for me not to visit her and, let her either drag me into hell with her or, just let her run over and listen to everything she says and give in to everything that she wanted, right? It took a long time and a lot of work to get to that point, It's easier when it's a person that's your friend or whatever. You can kind of be like, yeah, I might see you, or, your cousin, I might see you at a funeral or whatever, but don't bother getting a hold of me, right? But
absolutely. And that resonates with me. My mom diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS, very, very young in life. And, she's now pushing 80. She uses her MS as an excuse to treat people horribly.
Yep.
And I understand that she is ill, but that doesn't give her a reason to be toxic in my life. So I keep boundaries. It's like, you're my mom, that doesn't change, but I'm not going to let your negativity and your naysaying or whatever pull me down. I can't.
Right.
It's not healthy for me. So I get that.
Yep.
But
100%.
It's always tough especially when it's family, because there's just certain people that are like, oil and water. They don't mix well. And you can be compassionate, as we put here, but you're not going to fix them, especially if they don't help. So, definitely something to be aware of.
I have not met many people who were like toxic or, just evil that have changed. I don't have many stories where, that person used to, make me feel really bad, and now they make me feel good. That doesn't happen. No. I feel better because those people are out of my life is usually the answer, or the,
it's usually a relief when they leave, and they're obviously not, either they're oblivious to the way they make you feel, or they just don't care, and that's worse.
So I think that's where it comes down in the difference, right? Because I've had people that were in my life that were toxic, right? And told them about it. And eventually, a couple years in, 10 years in, some of them, right? They went and figured it all out. And it wasn't that they didn't care. They just didn't understand, right? They didn't know their own problems, right? But the ones that do it, like my mother, she's one that will do it and she doesn't care how it's going to make you feel, right? There's no fixing those people. Those people are, those people that you just got to deal with and get away from.
That's a tough one. Ed 5 is alive. Hey, good day. Good to see you.
Johnny number 5.
Indeed. This is one that I struggle with, and I know some of our friends do as well. Analysis paralysis. I know you guys may have heard of this, especially in the business world. When you have too many choices, when you become indecisive, when you become unable to make a decision because you're overthinking a problem. This reminds me of a scene from a film. A guy comes home from war. He's suffering from PTSD. He goes to a supermarket and he just gets gobsmacked in the cereal aisle because there's too much choice. His wife just says, honey, go grab some cereal. And there's like, a whole row of different cereals. He's just like, I can't make a choice because your brain just freezes sometimes. That's just one example. And something else that ties into this, especially the indecisiveness, is something called imposter syndrome. There's sometimes some of us, especially people who have to be in a public position, whether you're as a manager dealing with a crew or you're dealing with clientele, there's that little voice, that critic, that inner critic that says, who are you to do this? You're not the guy. Who are you to have a YouTube channel? What do you have to say that has any relevance? Who are you to be the manager of this, fill in the blank? that inner critic is not a real voice. It's just that negativity that you've got to check. And this is not meant to be in any way an exhaustive list. If you see something here that trips your trigger, look and do some research and figure out what works for you. What works for me is two things that I've had a real hard time learning. Make a framework. Figure out a way to have a decision-making process that is written down that you follow. So when you get to that point where indecisiveness is causing more anxiety or stress, you have a plan. I need to go step A, step B, step C. This is what I'm going to do. And set a deadline. If you can, within reason, but realistically, it's like I need to make a decision by X date. I need to follow my process. Then it's done. And usually the decision you make is the right one for that moment. Sometimes it's not, but at least you've moved past that hurdle. So that would be my 2 cents on that. You guys ever deal with analysis paralysis?
Absolutely. And I'm looking at a whole heap of analysis paralysis right over to the side of me here.
And it is a rad song by Masquerade. I'm glad somebody knew that one. I bet that's in Thanos Copter's Infinite playlist.
So yeah, absolutely. And and just in the workplace, I notice it's a negative trait is a lot of people get stuck in the mindset of everything they can't do, and they can't think of one thing that they can do. And usually this is something that an exercise we go through where, well, we can't do that because we don't have this. We can't do that because that's full. We can't do this because, and then, slow down. Let's pick one thing that we can do and just work on that. But I will say that I'm guilty of it myself. I can't do that because I need to do this and, overthink it. And the best way is, like I said, just pick one small thing that you can do. And, once you get that done, you'll feel better and you can move on to the next thing.
Absolutely. And this kind of ties into something we talked about a little earlier, and Ed kind of brought this up, the idea of breaking things down into smaller pieces. Love him or hate him, Jordan Peterson understands psychoanalysis. And one of the things he said that resonated with me, scale back the dragons until you find the conquerable. If it's just something as basic as making your bed, cleaning your room, doing a simple task, once you've done that, you get the momentum to do the next thing. So figure out the smallest piece that you can handle in that moment and move forward. So what are you saying, Ed?
Excellent advice.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying, right? You get that one thing that you've been putting off, instead of going for the end goal, do the one step that's going to get you towards that end goal and get that one done first, right? That's the problem with a lot of people is we always even if we bring this back to toys, right? A lot of guys won't build dioramas because they're too worried about how it's going to look at the end, right? Well, there is no end result, right? I mean, you don't know what the end result's going to look like. You could be the best diorama builder in the world. It doesn't mean you're going to have a great end result. You just got to start, right? Build the stairs first, build the door first, build the base first, whatever it is, right? And just go.
Right.
I mean,
and your first attempt may not be
right. I tell people all the time, man, I got a magic table. I just throw a bunch of shit on the table and see what comes out at the end of it all. If it doesn't work,
by the way, freaking love the table setup that you're doing, man. It's just awesome. Yeah,
that's gonna be sweet when it's all done. I just ordered some aquarium backdrops to go around the wall for it.
So that is really clever. Yeah, that's a good idea, especially for photography, right? When you get in there close with the camera. But the roads, the mat, it's just like a dream come true. It's like, exactly what you wanted to do when you were a kid, play with those things. So, when I see those pictures, when you're doing the progress pictures, I just absolutely filled with joy watching them. So that's great. So it looks like Largo froze up there. Eduardo's at it again. So
he's
what
out
we'll
there chewing on the wires.
Yeah, and I think what we'll do is go ahead and maybe just go with some of these people in chat here. James, I waved to him when he said good night, but yeah, good night to you, James. If you did see that, everyone's saying good night to him. Ben Stutley saying, Ed, well put on the parent situation. I had a life problem, moved back with my dad and stepmom, spent nearly 5 years bogged down with even the day-to-day functionality of my new home. It's really tough. It's really
I can tell you,
tough.
I went 12 years without speaking to a single person in my family, right? Because my mom and my dad and I had a big falling out. And my brother and sister took their side. My mom plastered, my bad name all over to the rest of my family, and no one talked to me, right? And it was probably one of the best things that could ever happen to me, because I learned, right, that, okay, these people, maybe they don't know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing, right? So I have to figure out what I'm doing instead of letting them just do this to me, right? And it took me 12 years to figure it out. And then I went back and, made my peace with it. And now I control the situation instead of them controlling the situation, right? So when it's time for Christmas dinner or whatever, I can be there on the 26th. I can be there on the 24th, the 27th, whatever it is, right? That's when I can be there. I'm not coming on the 25th. That's my day, right? So my mom has learned over, that was 8-10 years ago, so she's learned over those 10 years that if it's not going to work in my life, it's not going to work. And she's just going to have to deal with it. And she does now, but she still gets her point where she likes to try guilt tripping me and stuff. And I just tell her, guilt trips don't work, Mom. Try a different approach.
I already know that trick. Yeah.
Yep. Johnny just saying that he likes when Peterson talks about the world, about how the world is a horrifying place. You should be scared and aware of these things, but it's not an excuse to not get on with living your life. Exactly.
That's fair.
And then Paul Knapp just stopping in here.
The world is not a horrifying place. Society is a horrifying place.
He wants to know if Largo's drunk again. And, that's a fair assessment, probably. But, no.
Comfortably numb. Always keep a bottle of Gallo handy, because it's good lubrication. But some days are diamonds, some days are coal. Let's see where we are with the slides, because my system crashed. I get caught up here. Where were we? Oh, I think I jumped ahead. Yep. Yeah, that's all right.
That's where we were. Yep.
Coach. Everybody needs a coach. And this may not seem applicable, but I put it in there for those who it is applicable to. Even professional athletes still need a coach. Even if you're at the top of your game, business, financial, life, whatever, finding someone that you admire, who you look up to, people who are doing something well and you like the cut of their jib or what have you. There's nothing wrong with emulating success. And some of the best life coaches become good mentors and close friends. Whether you're looking for someone who you're professionally hiring as a life coach, or you're looking at people in your life that inspire you. For me, I don't have a life coach that is a personally certified, trained person, but I do look for good examples. And two that I cited and are in the description below, our buddy Tony from Analog Toys, when he did his Becoming Desert Rat series, super inspiring. And he put it out there. He's like, hey, these are the things I deal with. And he talked about, getting in shape again and going through physical exertion to help with mental issue. And I really admired that series. And I definitely recommend anyone check that out if you're looking for some good inspiration. And, Payne's toy samples with his toy therapy. It's awesome. And it's another thing, and we've talked about this, and we'll go into it more as we close out the show. What we do with collecting, whether it be toys or records or what have you, whatever it is that we enjoy, and the community that we become a part of as that, there's value in seeing that as a form of therapy. And I like what he does with that. So both of those guys really inspire me, and I've put links to their shows, and I would recommend that. Are there people in your guys' lives that you look to as a coach or a mentor, or just somebody who's like, hey man, I like the way you do that. I'm gonna model that in my own life?
I'll let you go, Will. Go ahead.
Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers. Oh no, Craftsman, Steady Craft. Those are my guys right there. If I could be like any of these guys, I think I'd be really swell. And
That's
Paul
cool.
Knapp, you can't forget about Paul.
That's
he's
true.
he's my life coach as well.
There you
And I
go.
put a link to his show in the description. So you can,
Yes, the voice
learn
of reason, and a guy who does some great war memorabilia,
he
dioramas.
also
Has some great collections.
the most elaborate and intros. He makes up such wonderful things about everyone that appears on this show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's always
They're
fun
hilarious.
hanging with those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got
Camaraderie is
certified as a
definitely
life coach years ago, and I'm going through getting certified as an NLP, neuro linguistic programming life coach right now. So there's a lot to be said about a life coach, right? I mean, it's the one thing I learned in my NLP course recently, though, is it was like an epiphany, right? So talking about people that you emulate or admire or right, whatever it is, one of the practices we did is, the instructor was like, find someone that you admire, right? Or emulate, want to emulate. What's the one trait about them that you admire the most, right? Is it their tenacity or their drive or whatever it is, right? And he's like, if that is what you admire most about them, the good news is that trait is already within you. It's just actually waking it up. So I was like, wow, that's, that's like something you don't even think about, right? Because it's like, if you emulate the fact that, like Tony's, dug deep and a straight shooter and, did all the stuff, right? Well, that stuff's already inside you, so it's just a matter of waking up that dragon and, bringing it out the fire.
That's cool. And another guy that's popular for positivity, Tony Robbins said something. It's good horse sense. If you want to be successful, find someone who has achieved the results you want, copy what they do, and you'll achieve the same results. It ain't rocket science, kids.
No.
If someone is successful at doing something and it's not just all smoke and mirrors, if they've really accomplished that, emulate what they're doing.
Tony Robbins is a big
lot
NLP coach himself. He studied all the NLP stuff, so that's where this all comes from.
Definitely works. And the point where Will has been chomping at the bit for us to get to community. We're there, Will. I'll let you run the show from here.
Community, hang out with your friends. Get in where you fit in. Provides a non-judgmental perspective. Helps increase our sense of belonging. Improves our self-confidence and helps reduce stress and anxiety. Oh my God, does it ever, man. Can I just tell you, when I think back to some of the most traumatic times of my life, and this would be early childhood, well, actually my entire life, but, early childhood in particular, there were those times where hanging out with your friends was, everything just went away. You weren't concerned about any of the problems that you had. All it was sharing, camaraderie, and fun. I can't think back to even the worst time I had hanging out with a friend or friends and not have it put a smile on my face.
That's
there's
like
a lot.
That's one of the things I find really fascinating about Payne's toy samples when he talks about, when's the last time you had fun, right? Because that's what he talks about, right? When's the last time you got so involved in something that the rest of the world just disappeared, right? And it's like, it's hard to, Payne's on episode 9, 10 or something like that. And
for the toy therapy,
a lot of the people that he's had on as guests have really struggled with that. And it's funny to see as adults how many of us actually struggle with just
breaking
hard. Away, right?
It is difficult because of all of the adult responsibilities we have.
Now, I will say 3 years ago, it was very hard for me. Today, I make sure I do it at least once a day. I go out in the middle of the woods in the creek. People will be walking by. I'm laying half in the creek with, action figures standing there taking pictures of them. They just walk by and I'm like, how you doing? Move along. Nothing to see here.
Don't mind me. Just
again, it goes back to that non-judgmental perspective. When people get it, it's like You don't have to love what I love, but you got to appreciate that this is something for me. You know,
I gotta say though,
Jeff is one of those guys. Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, that's right.
There is
hanging
a
out.
common thread that I have found, particularly in this community. And without going on a side rant, I've been involved in several communities in my adult life, and none of them, and I mean none of them, have been as close to or equal to the friendships I had growing up than this toy community right now, right here, without a doubt. I mean, even, the worst stream I've ever been involved on, or the worst conversation I've ever been in with someone, has been, pure joy for me. And it started with obviously just watching videos and just maybe even just throwing a little comment in there, and then the live streams. Like I said, this is a phenomenon that is something that never existed before, because social media didn't do it. We weren't face to face. You're kind of typing something out, and then there's always that one person that's just like, ruins it for you. We're face to face. This is as close as we could get to just sitting around out by the creek, sipping on a couple beers and just bullshitting. That we could get to, and we have a common, hobby here that brings us together. But I gotta say, it's not the hobby that brings us together. I think it's something. It's something.
I think
more.
It's definitely something bigger. I mean, look at Jeff, right, from Skunk Works. Jeff and I have been friends now for probably over a decade, right? Started on Facebook, never even seen each other's face other than, your profile pic, or, you maybe put a picture in your Facebook feed, right?
Well, to be fair with Jeff, nobody had saw his face for years with that big old beard he used to have.
Well, true. I had seen it though. I had definitely seen a picture of it. But point is that, we had never, Jeff and I have never met in person. And I'll tell you what, me and Jeff are best buds, right? I mean, we share things back and forth for many years. When we were on Facebook together, he was making me custom shit. I was making him. We just send it back and forth, right? It was never you got to pay me for this, or, it was never,
that's not the
me
point.
Up to date, talk like we were best buds from, freaking childhood. And that's the way it is in this community, right? It's like for most of us, right? You have the bad apples, of course. You're always going to have those no matter where you go, right? But yeah. I mean, like Will, I never met Will, I never met Jim, but you guys are cool, right? I mean, I love talking.
Actually, like the second I started talking to you, or like 30 seconds into meeting you, I was like, oh my god, this is my guy right here. This is a dude that if we were BMXing down the road, jumping the creek with our bikes, we would definitely be hanging out. Because,
it's like I tell everybody, right, man?
After that first stream, I said to Jim, yeah, Ed's definitely one of those guys that I would have been hanging out with.
Yeah, definitely, for sure, right?
And I'll say Joe Fest, meeting a lot of these people in person was probably the last time that I remember just losing track of time completely. I didn't think about anything. I was just in the moment. Next thing I know, the damn weekend's over, and I'm driving home going, did that really happen? So
I know that's what I'm looking forward to PowerCon for that same reason, right? PowerCon, I know on the way home Sunday night, I'm gonna be like, damn, that's already over. Man, that weekend went by fast.
Phil from Treasures for Trigger saying this community has been such a beaut, sharing our love of toys, making friendships, a gift that has kept giving. That's the sentiment I think a lot of us agree with. There are dark corners of collecting, like the Hiss Tank people and the Hasbros and some others that just get their panties in a wad over things. It's like, talk about toxic friendships. Those are definitely in that cap. For the most part, by and large, most of the people I've found in the toy collecting community are good sorts. They're people who really enjoy our hobby. And like you say, they share their knowledge, they share their talent, and they're happy to bring people in. They're inclusive. It's like, hey man, if you're into this, like with the 1/6 stuff, I hadn't touched a big fuzzy head Kung Fu Grip Joe in decades. And I started reaching out to some guys who were in that community, and they're like, yeah, come on in, man. The water's fine. It's cool. So I really appreciate that camaraderie. And we see that a lot in all different areas.
I think that's one of the things I look for, right, with this community is like one of the reasons like Jeff and I really started becoming buds, right, is that he was banging off, ideas against me. I was banging off ideas against him of just different custom things we were working on, or I think I started flocking and Jeff asked me how to flock and then he was making something. I asked him how to do that. Right. But it was never, well, if I tell this guy my secrets, I'm not going to be able to sell him, a $15 flock, service.
You
right?
do see that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And people do that. But like with Jeff, it was just, me and Jeff were just like bang, 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 it was never a thing. And you see that a lot here. Right. Like if somebody asked me, or if I asked somebody in here, what, like if I asked Payne, right? Payne, what's the paint you use for this, right? Like the other day we were talking, he brought up his super glue trick, right? And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Thanks for sharing, right? It was never, he wasn't trying to keep something, hidden from anybody. It was like, why do that?
Right. And there's guys that just love to tinker, like Toy Polloi. He does it for the love of it, go figure. There are guys who like looking at vintage stuff, trying to make repairs, bringing old things back to life for the love of it and sharing that.
And I got to tell you, if I were to create something and then, through a video or discussion, explain how I did it, and then someone were to show me that they did that as well, that would be like the reward right there for me, man. That would make me feel like $1 million or, even improved upon it. You did it, but you did it better. Oh my God. Great. It's like, my dream come true.
That's my friend Jeff right there. I'd send him an idea and he'd be like, yeah, I can do that better. And he did.
That's great.
Good on you, Jeff. Good on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love some of the challenges you guys throw back and forth as part of the Axis of Awesome too. Some of the different contests and ideas. It's like, what can you do with this? Here's an idea. Run. Here's a soup starter. Go do something. Make something creative and let's see what you come up with. What's he got here? I always say a rising tide raises all ships. That's a good saying. I love meeting new people, trying new things, and this community has been awesome for that. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Ben Stutley, the same kind of community because it's competitive.
Oh, he was saying earlier.
Competition. Oh, yeah. The RC community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where'd it go?
That he stepped away. Oh, go ahead.
You do it.
No, my hands are up.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. RC racing. Yeah. There are communities within communities, circles within circles. It's like people who collect one thing, collect other areas, like for me, I used to collect certain board games because I like painting miniatures and went from tabletop games to other games because I enjoy painting, but there's circles of people who collect those, collect vintage games, whether it be, old copies of Scrabble and, Miles Born or whatever game was popular when they grew up. See, it's fun seeing other people's rabbit holes that they chase down. It's like you have certain areas that you have a commonality in your collection, and then somebody else has another fringe thing they collect over here, and it's like, what the heck is that? And then it's like, ooh, that's shiny squirrel. Look,
that RC world was pretty rough, though. I was into RC, the scale world, rock crawlers and scale crawlers and stuff like that for a long time before I got into the 112 stuff. And there's a lot of great guys in that group too, but there are some of them that was like, if you were driving the stock truck that was, bought off the shelf, it was like, oh, yours trucks, sucks. My truck's so much better. And it's like, why are you doing that, dude? This guy's trying to figure out how to make a special, truck that he, he's just starting out. Maybe he's 14. You don't know.
Yeah.
Give the guy a break, geez. Just make him welcome.
And that goes back to the idea of the non-judgmental perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I said this to a friend once, when we were in a Facebook custom group, and someone put up a custom that was maybe his first try and the paint wasn't done in, the most amazing way. But when you looked at it, you could see where his imagination was and where it was. So people trashing this guy really annoyed the shit out of me. And one of the things I said was, when you're in these groups, act like it's your kid that did it. Would you talk to your own kid like that? You have to imagine, and so that was like the perspective that I put out there was like, imagine your kid brought you this figure, and I have a G.I. Joe my son painted fluorescent green head to toe. he was customizing a Joe when he was a little kid. I've kept this thing that way, and I'm never going to change it because he was trying something, and
Yeah.
He learned from it. And he did a much better job on the next one. But I mean, this thing's globbed. He looks like a slime monster. It's all right. The kid's
Those
20
are the best
now.
things, right? I mean,
Right.
But
it's an honest effort.
I got clay statues made by my kids that are when they were 5, 6 years old that I still hold on to because they were couldn't tell what they are anymore. I'm like, I think this was the samurai. Maybe this was Bigfoot. My daughter made me a clay Bigfoot. I think it's like purple and pink. And I'm like,
and it's
that was the clay she had, right?
Yeah.
But it's always fun when you can share with like you share with your son, Ed, a lot of the fun stuff you guys do with Akxion figs. There's something about being able to have a cross-generational love for collecting that I admire. And so, yeah, the community we're in is a fun one. And I really appreciate all you guys. And last of the slides, and then we'll start tapering off. Bottom line, y'all grown-ass men. If you need help, get help. There are counseling and psychological services readily available wherever you are. I didn't want to recommend any particular one, especially if it isn't one that I've used, because I can't give you firsthand experience with it. But see what's in your community. If you are spiritually minded, go to a pastor or a priest or look for counseling in that fashion. If you're not, there are plenty of other clinical opportunities, some free, some for a fee, all usually worth checking out. So if you need something, see what's out there and see what's available. And if you just need to talk, pick somebody in the community that you have a commonality with, that you feel comfortable with, and chat them up. I don't, I'm all choked up. I don't claim to have any authority or expertise, but I can listen and I can commiserate if nothing else. And I think a lot of us can do that for each other. So. Thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. You're not alone. You really
right.
aren't. And even if we've never met face to face, you got a friend right here. So just reach out because we've all been there, man. I've been, I can't talk about it, but I'll listen to you.
I've been down the road, came back out. I hit the one thing I tell people is, if you don't like your life, don't wait till you hit rock bottom to fix it. Right.
Yeah.
I did that.
Exactly.
Right. I waited till I hit rock bottom, and then I dealt with my problems. Now, I lost my wife, my family's, broken up, right? And it's fine now, right? It's years past, right? But I had to hit that floor before I decided that, I needed to change, even though I knew I needed to change. I just didn't want to do the work that, created the change, right? And, I'll tell you one thing that I do every morning besides the smiling thing that has helped me significantly is every morning, as soon as I wake up, before I get out of bed, before I go get a cup of coffee, before I do anything, I do a 1 to 3 minute gratitude dump, right? And I just say thank you to whoever the higher power you might believe in is. I just say thank you for everything, right? Thanks for my kids. I mean, stupid stuff, right? Thanks for the fact that I have fucking socks on my feet, right? Thanks for coffee. Thanks for the fact I'm going to get up and have a bowl of Cocoa Puffs, whatever it is, right? I say thank you for everything. And I just go through it for 1 to 3 minutes. And then I do the smiling exercise. I'll tell you what, man, I feel great all day long because you're starting that day off. And one of the things I learned is that I didn't appreciate the things that I had. Not that I didn't cherish them, right? But I didn't truly appreciate them, right? I just figured my wife was always going to be there. I figured my kid was always going to be there. The family was always going to be there. My job was always going to be there, whatever it is, right? We take so many things for granted nowadays instead of just being grateful for the fact that, people ask me now, how you doing today? I'm like, fucking sun shining. I feel great. I got to see the sun again. What more could I ask for? I woke up on the right side of the dirt.
Yeah. And it's much better to be able to focus on things you're grateful for than always talking about the things you don't have or focusing on the negative.
Yep.
And that's a great practice. Paul brings up a good point here that, in high stress positions in our military, EOD, Navy divers, special teams, those guys have have a high rate of divorce, a high rate of stress, a lot of bad things that come through their experience. And it's good to know that there are people available for them. And
Yep.
you know, the military, I have a lot of respect for people who've made a career in that, but it does command a lot of sacrifice, not only of self, but sometimes of family, and mental health can definitely be challenged in those occupations.
You know, they did a study that even people that went into the service, even if they went reserves or National Guard, maybe it's not so much anymore, but back in the day, this study came out like maybe 10, 15 years ago. Just going into the military and going through the basic training and the training, all that actually changes your physiology in your brain, whether you went to see combat or not. So not even the fact that you went to see combat does your physiology change. Now imagine the guys that have gone and seen a combat and shit, shit getting dirty, right? I mean, imagine how much their physiology changes. It's crazy to think about that.
Yeah, and it hasn't always been addressed in the history of our armed forces, and I think that part of the culture has changed in positive ways, and that's good. But Brick brings up something here about the neuroscience of gratitude. There's conclusive evidence that this is a real thing, and it's good food for your mental health. You feed your brain the things that are positive instead of negative. And
that's what I say. Like, right, I wake up in the morning, it starts the whole day in the right direction, right? I'm thankful for what I have. I'm grateful for the fact that I got to get up and put my feet on the floor again. And then the rest of the day starts, right? It's going the right direction, as opposed to waking up going, oh, I don't want to get up. I got to go to my stupid job. I hate this, Kids get to stay home all damn day, and I got to go to work. And that's how I used to live my life, right? I mean, I was there. I was that guy, right? It's easy to get into those negative habits, right?
Sure. And, like Father Son Galaxy says here, a lot of the YouTubers we enjoy, they provide a service, whether they mean to or not. Again, tying into the camaraderie, sharing like interests, pointing out something we may not know about, a new toy or a new part of the hobby. And, and we appreciate also, the people who comment. That's how a lot of us got to know each other, was in the chats of other YouTubers.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, nothing feels better than, and a lot of us in the hobby are kind of an island amongst unto ourselves, so when you're watching a YouTuber and he says the thing you say, wait, you talk toys? I talk toys. We talk toys.
You like stuff? I like stuff.
But you know what? It doesn't even have to be that way, right? Like,
he said the thing that I always say that everyone looks at me confused. You get to a point where it's just that common ground. It is definitely something that has brought us together, but I think it is the community and the shared, wanting of, hanging out with the boys, man. It feels good. It just feels good,
I don't know if you guys have ever watched Akxion. He does metal detecting and like some history stuff, right? He's got a big YouTube channel, been on it forever, right? When I first got divorced and I was going through like some really dark times, right? He put out videos, once every couple of days he puts out a new video. They're about 20 minutes to 30 minutes long, right? But he's very entertaining, very educational, but very also just a cool, down-to-earth guy. He's always showing, different rivers and, places that he's hiking to, right? And I'll tell you what, without that YouTube channel, I mean, I might not here today. And that's the truth. And just the fact that I was able to sit down and, that was what I looked forward to at that point in time, right? Look forward to seeing my kids, of course, and everything else, right? But in that moment, I was so depressed and so mentally ill that like just the drive that, I wonder what Chick's going to put out tomorrow, right? Was what kept me going to the next day, right? And I don't think people that have those regular scheduled programs and stuff really, I mean, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that look forward to, HDT every Sunday night, right? I mean, I look forward to it. It's just my way of ending the weekend. But I mean, there's probably people that look at it as a way of, I got to make it through today because I'm going to see HDT tonight and I'm going to have a good time hanging in the chat with my buds. The guys on screen are going to be the animals that they usually are.
It's common ground and it's relatable. You could watch movies and big Hollywood productions or television shows, but they're an escape for a short period of time. But they don't feel like
No.
Something that you could directly relate to. These are real people just like you, and they're sharing, and that it's just such a much more intimate kind of, whether they know it or not, they're sharing a
Right.
part of themselves with you.
Where else you going to get Jason from Spiro Toys dropping off telling you to eat your beans before his phone dies? I mean, where else you going to get that, right?
And that was kind of the mindset behind creating the lounge. It's that idea. It's the local corner bar you guys go to, grab a beer and hang out and BS for an hour or whatever. We're not pigeonholed into just talking toys. We can talk pop culture. Right. We can talk music.
I think that's what really helped your channel grow, Jim, is the fact that you started doing the infinite playlist and the different things, right? It's not just stuck in that, like there's so many guys that, and this is fine because you got to talk about what you're passionate about, right? But
sure.
There's so many guys that just talk about, Transformers or just G.I. Joe or just Valaverse or just whatever it is, right? And that's fine. But like to have your YouTube channel has grown big because you've covered so many different things, right? And not just had that one show. You had your show on Mondays that was, AF3 or whatever, and then the infinite playlist, and then Largo's Lounge and all that. It helps with all of it, right? Plus, you're a great guy to listen to. You're a great guy to talk to, right?
Well, I try, but thank you. Ben, I know it's late on in your time zone, so have a good one. Well, we will be doing this at least once a week. I'm trying to get the schedule back to where it was. We've got some AF3 stuff we need to get back onto for Series 2 and 3 and beyond. A lot of great show ideas and some great guests I want to bring back in. So we're getting back into the rhythm. We've had some setbacks.
You're going to cover Magna PI on your show, right?
Oh, yeah. Love the mustache.
Did you flock?
Yeah, I flocked.
You did.
Oh, you son of a bitch. That's awesome. I could see the buzz. That is amazing.
So
that is amazing. And I can't believe I haven't seen it until now. I'm like, where have I been?
I posted one picture on IG earlier today. So
did you? Okay. Yeah. Today was busy.
I just finished them up this morning.
Oh my God.
That's awesome. We'll definitely look forward to seeing that in maybe further Crick episodes too. I see him popping up now and then. We're almost at the 2-hour mark, guys, so we should probably wrap it up. I know it's getting late for some of y'all. Thanks for doing this. I know it was kind of an off topic. It's not an easy subject, but I think this is the right community to bring it to. Keeping it real.
It was absolutely awesome, Jim. Great, and I can't thank everyone in the chat that shared their experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and Ed, you talking so candidly about the things that you went through, man. I definitely, it means a lot more to me than I could even express with these human words that
anytime, man. It's like I told Jim the other day. Anytime if you need to talk about something, hit me up, man. I'll talk. I'll listen.
Definitely appreciate that.
Whatever you need. I've been down the roller coaster too many times to
count. And that's a great thing about having such a large community that's international, that covers different cultures. Something that you're struggling with, maybe one of the guys out here in the interwebs has already dealt with and can provide some positive feedback, some suggestions, or just a shoulder when you need it, or an ear. So be there for each other. Be kind to each other, to quote Bill and Ted. Be excellent to each other. We will bring something. We'll try to do at least one show a week to get back up to snuff. Will and I are going to put our heads together and start getting a schedule back. So just keep an eye out and look for your notifications and whatnot. And have a great whatever. And we'll see you in the very near future. You guys want to hang out for a minute? We'll BS in the green room and continue to commiserate as we do. So enjoy. See everybody. Anything you guys want to plug before we jump out?
Nah,
I'm good. You can find me on Instagram and IG. You know that.
Yep. Just a regular jerk with some toys. And if you want to check them out with me, you know where to find me.
It's all good. All right. Now we get to watch the famous Largo Jammin'.